Professor Brynen, U.S. President Donald Trump had pledged to not get the United States entangled in wars in the Middle East, and yet on June 22nd, as part of an operation named Midnight Hammer, he did just that and joined Israel's bombing campaign against Iran. We know that U.S. B-2 stealth bombers struck 3 major nuclear sites in Iran, Fordo, Natanz, and Isfahan, dropping 14 massive ordnance penetrator bombs or bunker-busting bombs on the sites. Trump claimed that the facilities targeted by the U.S. bombers were obliterated. But the question I had for you is, why did President Trump make the decision to directly join the fray and bomb Iran?
I think there are several reasons. There are lots of people in his administration who had long been Iran hawks and had wanted the U.S. to either attack Iran's nuclear capabilities or to support an Israeli attack or some combination of this. And this, of course, was supporting what was largely an Israeli attack against other Iranian facilities. There'd been a lot of pressure from the Netanyahu government to do that. And I also think that militarily, the Israeli campaign was going quite well. And Trump wanted to jump on the bandwagon of that. It looked like it could be relatively low cost, relatively little risk to U.S. forces. Had the Israeli campaign not been going very well, we might not have seen American engagement, but it was.
Was there any kind of long-term objective, do you think, or was this just about getting a quick win for Trump?
It looks like a quick win. Obviously, the U.S. doesn't want Iran to develop nuclear weapons, but of course, Iran was not in the process of developing nuclear weapons, although it had been in the process of positioning itself that it could in future decide to develop nuclear weapons.
Although the Israelis say they were getting close. The Israelis say they were potentially weeks away from actually being able to build a bomb.
Yes, but the Israelis have been saying that for more than a decade, that the Iranians were getting close. I think the consensus in Western intelligence communities was the Iranians hadn't actually decided to build a bomb, but the Iranians wanted to have the capacity to decide to build a bomb in future. There are a lot of other countries that have been in that position at one point or another, including South Korea kind of is, Japan kind of is, Sweden once had that quiet policy of if we had to, we could. I think that's where the Iranians were. I think the real question now is whether the Israeli and American military actions end up putting an end to any future Iranian nuclear ambitions, or whether the Iranians decide no one would have attacked us if we'd had a bomb, so maybe we should build one after all. And of course, we're only in this position because the first Trump administration abandoned the nuclear deal that had been signed with Iran, in which the Iranians had committed not to build a bomb. So to some extent, the Trump administration was trying to solve a problem that was of its own making.
What is the consequence, or what has been the consequence of this action taken by the United States?
Well, there was always a fairly heated Iranian national security debate between hawks who thought that a nuclear capability was a good thing and others who worried that it just made Iran vulnerable to precisely this kind of attack. And we don't really have any visibility in the public domain as to how that debate is going, but I imagine there's right now a debate in Iran between let's not go back there, we'll just get bombed again, versus we need to go there because if we did have a nuclear weapon, people wouldn't risk bombing us. More broadly, there's going to be a lot of introspection in Iran about why all of their strategic deterrence failed. Their long-range missile capability was not enough to deter Israeli actions. Of course, Hezbollah had been previously grievously damaged during the Israeli campaign in Lebanon. So I think the Iranians in the national security establishment are going to have to do a lot of thinking about how their assumptions about deterrence and regional influence haven't worked out very well for them in the last 2 years.
You've been listening to a clip of In Bed with the Elephant with me, your host, Adrian Harewood. Be sure to check out the podcast on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Amazon, iHeartRadio, and YouTube. And please be sure to like and subscribe to the podcast and write a review. We love hearing from you.